You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Cabral Concept. It's great to have you with me here today on this Friday review, where we've got a lot to go over what's been going over the past week. Got a great book review for you today. A bunch of herbs that I want to go through of why I believe they're going to help balance your overall, not only sinus passages, but overall health and wellness. We're going to be looking at an interview I did over this past week. Can't wait to bring this one to you. It's a nice, short, sweet one. And then also some lab results that we should know about when we're looking at our overall energy and metabolism-based levels. So let's get right into the show. The first thing that I want to go over today, because it has been a really busy week in the practice, is really the fact that so many new people, so many new members are coming over to CabralSupportGroup.com. That is our free Facebook group where we provide support each and every day. Not doing, obviously, a full analysis of your labs or anything like that, but simply giving you that first place to start. Yes, I do all of my questions each and every weekend on the Ask Cabral house calls, but those take sometimes 10, 11 weeks or so to get back. And the reason is that we have a big queue of people lined up and everyone needs their questions answered. I'm happy to do that. But also, my team answers questions each and every day over at CabralSupportGroup.com. That is our health coaching group, and you are welcome to join. So many hundreds of members coming in each and every week, and we are all excited to meet you and see you over there. And it's also a global community. I can't stress that enough, is that we have people from all over the world in that group, and it's just so nice to be able to cheer each other on, answer questions, pose questions, and just provide support because we're all on this journey together. We literally are. And speaking of our groups, we have our integrative health practitioners, our new practitioners, 100 new people that just came in this month. We like I said, we're different, right? Our health coaching certification is just completely different. We're focused on community, we're focused on connections, and we're focused on bringing people together, the next generation of health coaches. And we can do this because we can practice virtually. Yes, you can have your own local practice in your city, but also we're teaching you how to expand your borders and work with people all over the world. Now, that's the certification part. The course part is that anyone, anywhere can take this course to learn how to heal themselves or family member or something like that as well. So excited on both fronts. That is now closed. We only allow in a few people, about 100 people per month. And the reason we do that is we want to take excellent care, provide excellent customer service care. And you can't do that with 1,000 or 2,000 new people per month. So we're allowing in 100 people, and we can't wait to meet all of those people in our separate IHP private Facebook group. And the other great thing, too, is Level 2 is debuting in just about a week or two. So everyone that's past Level 1, if you've signed up for Level 2, the new material debuts in just about, it's about 10 days or so. So we're super excited for that. So much great new information on how to read labs, how to make specific recommendations, all based on real-world practice. People ask us all the time, how is this health certification different? Well, the reason the Integrative Health Practitioner Certification is different is that it's literally based on over 250,000 client appointments, helping people with a myriad of issues, and giving you real-world protocols. There's no theory, there's no just authors only, anything like that. Again, I have no problem with that, but what you're getting is a concise practice that's been shown to work in the real world, and we give you what works. There's no theory, there's not tons of boring research that goes into it. I do all the boring research, and I give you what works. So anyway, it's closed now, but I just wanted to welcome all of our new members. And if you're ever interested in more details, you can simply go to integrativehealthpractitioner.org, and you can click the little button to be notified of the next time we do open. Well, one more thing I'd like to go over right now is the interview I did with Lucas Rockwood on the Yoga Body podcast. Really fun interview. It was just about 30 minutes long, and it is called The Goldilocks Zone for Protein with Stephen Cabral. And so that's the name of the podcast. Of course, I'm going to link it up today. The easiest way to find all of these links, whether it be IHP or certain herbs I'll be speaking about today or book recommendations I'll be talking about, is just heading over to stephencabral.com/1099 for today's podcast show notes and links. And I will embed this podcast as well. And you can also head over to Yoga Body and you can find it there. What's the show based on? Well, the show is based on how much protein we need to be healthy individuals. Now, we go over a bunch of different things, but we went over the risk, rewards, and reality of keto diets, why protein is harder to digest, how much protein to get per body weight, what happens when we get too much protein in our body, the differences between Vata body types, Kapha-based body types, and the mesomorph pittas as well. So really fun, like I said, podcast to do. Everything is available right over at that show. So I'll link that up at 1099 for today's show. And one more thing before we get into the herb research and product recommendation that I would love to give you today, because as I was going through this debut, you'll hear it at the very end of the show, I was doing like an outro to the podcast. And, you know, we do that every week or so and change it up. But this I really wanted to be evergreen, so I want to talk to you about these herbs in just a moment. But right now, before I get to the real research part, a lot of people are having a difficult time, and this is just completely insane to me, but their PCP is not running their vitamin D levels. And they say, you don't need to check that. You checked it last year and it was fine. Well, your vitamin D can change literally month to month, and even more than that. I just don't understand why we're the ones paying with our own health insurance, and we can't get numbers that we should be allowed to find out what's going on with our own body. So what we did, especially since it's the winter time still for many of us here in the United States and Europe, our Australian friends are enjoying summer in New Zealand as well, which is great. But what we're doing is we are offering $70 off our vitamin D lab. Now it puts it under $100. And the reason we're doing is just a standalone test, find out what your vitamin D levels are. You go to your typical MD PCP, and the range is from 100, sometimes it's even as low as 20, which is just crazy, to 80, right? So we have this big range, or it's sometimes 30 to 100. But ideal is this. Ideal is 50 to 70, sometimes 50 to 80 for most people. The higher your vitamin D, the harder your immune system is essentially going to be working. The more chance for calcification. But again, we look at all of those things. So here's what we do. For most people, general public. Now, there can always be outliers. There can always be people saying, oh, you have to watch for this, this, and this. 99% of people should be between 50 and 70. The vitamin D test is simple. There's no consultation given with it. There's a simple recommendation of, based on your vitamin D, we recommend using this amount of vitamin D supplementation. Of course, you can get more sun, but you can't if you're someone like me that lives in Boston until about early June. That's when you're going to, late May, early June is when you'll actually be able to start to get a tan. And again, even if it's summertime, you don't get enough vitamin D unless you're getting a full body tan. A lot of people think that because it's summer, you all of a sudden will have higher levels of vitamin D. That's only true if you're getting a full body tan. So it's an amazing test. It's super simple, and it just gives you your straightforward vitamin D levels, and it tells you if you're optimal or not, which is what it's all about. It's about being optimal, especially since vitamin D affects your hormones, your blood sugar, your ability to gain or lose weight, your mood, your cognitive ability. I mean, it's crucial for overall detoxification, inflammation. So simple test. I believe that's going on for the next day. That's it. Head on over to equilibriumnutrition.com. Just search that vitamin D test, and you'll find typically it's $169, which is still a great price, sent to you right at home. You get your recommendations along with it, and you don't have to ask your PCP to do it. That is typically $169, I believe, and just for the next day, this isn't offered past that. For the next day or so after this podcast, it is on sale for $99. Okay, so up next is our research, and I love this research because there's a new product that I just formulated and put out, and it's called Sinus Support. Now, I shouldn't say it was just formulated, and the reason is this. There are some things we use in private practice that we haven't been able to get online. Now, luckily, there's very few of those products left. Very few left. but sinus support was one of them. And this is one that, of course, because I get to work with people and see allergies and all those things. But the truth is this, that a lot of people right now have a weakened immune system. Okay. They have congested nasal passages, congested lungs, congested chest, or postnasal drip. And it's just this nagging, irritating thing that's wearing their body down. And they feel the symptoms as not able to breathe as well. So they have less energy. They have more brain fog. They have more aches and pains. It's harder to sleep at night. They're waking up more. So all of these things can be contributors. Simply put, what we're looking to do is boost their body's own ability. That's the amazing thing about this, and that's why I want to give you a little research behind it. Boost the body's own ability to eliminate these pathogens in the sinus passages and to drain that mucus, to actually loosen it up. So if you know anybody that's dealing with this right now, a product such as Sinus Support is going to better enable them to improve their overall immunity, which will then help them to not have as much of the postnasal drip, lung, chest congestion, sinus congestion, etc. The reason why I'm going over the ingredients with you right now is because I've always said this, and I'll say it now and I'll say it again. It does not matter to me. Does not matter to me whether you use the Equilibrium nutrition products or not. I created the Equilibrium nutrition products because I had to. There are sometimes products that are not available through other companies, other functional medicine companies that I like, and I've named them many times before. They just don't have the product. And if they don't have the product and I need it in my practice, and that practice is global, right? It's people all over the world. I have to create the product. But here's the fun thing, and here's the research I want to bring you, is that functional medicine blends very nicely with traditional Chinese medicine, herbalism, and that can be Native American, it can be many different types of herbalism, and Ayurvedic medicine. And the Sinus Support's a perfect example of that. So I want to show you how, this is what we teach, right? In the Integrative Health Practitioner Certification, we teach this, of how to blend 7 different forms of medicine. Because no one form is the best. Functional medicine is certainly not better than Ayurvedic medicine. Without a doubt, it's not. Traditional naturopathy isn't necessarily better than Ayurvedic medicine. They're all amazing, right? Functional medicine lab testing, nothing beats it in the world, right? Certainly not conventional medicine blood work. So what do? We don't have to play favorites. That's the funny thing, is we don't have to play favorites. I'm on other podcasts that promote a keto and low-carb lifestyle. Why would they invite me on? It's because there are times in my practice where I use a lower-carb diet. I do that. I've already explained that before. Do I do that for life, and do I do it for every person in the world? Of course not, right? So now those podcasts might like to just show how I promote that in a certain fashion, but there is no one for everyone, right? We see the ectomorph, and they can eat all the carbs they want and not gain weight. They don't have any blood sugar-based issues. And we see the endomorph, and they just kind of look at carbs and they start to gain weight. When I say carbs, I mean starches, right? Or processed food especially. Of course, they're going to have a different diet. Why would I recommend low carb to both of those people? It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. Why would I try to force them into one box? Well, here's the interesting thing. In a truly integrated practice, you can use everything. Now, I want you to think about that as I'm going through the Sinus Support product. And again, you don't need to use Sinus Support. You can use another product that has these same ingredients. Okay? That's why I'm teaching. That's why I want to teach these things. Watch this. So in functional medicine, orthomolecular medicine, we use something called N-acetylcysteine. Okay, we use N-acetylcysteine. Why? Because it's a powerful amino acid-based chain that allows us to produce more glutathione. It helps to break up what are called sulfide or disulfide bonds. And it allows us to better drain or create more viscosity to the mucus in our lungs, chest congestion, which is really inflammation or pleurisy, and congestion in the sinus passages. So if we loosen that, if we break it up, it drains better, which means we're better able to get rid of the pathogens. That's why we have a lot of the inflammation, congestion in the first place. There's a lot of immune work going on, right? There's a lot of killing of pathogens there. Well, the N-acetylcysteine helps to loosen that. Now, here's the amazing thing. That's orthomolecular. That's functional medicine based. Now we take another product called bromelain, right? And what do we do with bromelain? Well, bromelain now comes from the core the rind, the stem of pineapple. And by using that, it does the same thing as N-acetylcysteine from a food-based perspective. So again, I don't have to play favorites. I can use the bronchial support, which is with bromelain, the mucus draining support in bromelain, and the N-acetylcysteine, the best of food-based and the best of functional medicine. Another example of that, I'm using turmeric, right? We know about turmeric, we know about curcumin, as an anti-inflammatory. Why would I use turmeric as an anti-inflammatory here? And a little bit of something called andrographis as well. So the reason why I use those is because when your sinus passages are inflamed, there is less space to drain all of that, basically the bacteria and the pathogens and the mucus out. So we need to shrink those passages naturally. Now we can use our ear, nose, and throat protocol. We can use those great nasal sprays that we recommend, the Nutribiotic GSE sprays. We can use all of those. Those are all great. We want to open up the space, decrease the inflammation. Natural turmeric will help with that. Another great one. Let me give you a couple of these. We use berberine, andrographis, and thyme. Those are three of my favorite for congestion. Here's why. They are going, and they've been proven to, act as a broad spectrum antibacterial and antimicrobial, and one more, antifungal. Because so many people have nasal congestion-based issues, as well as lung, because of fungal overgrowth. Well, using those, and especially thyme for that, Thyme, right, if we're talking about that, are one of those great things that has been shown, clinically studied, clinically verified, you can look all these up yourself, is it helps with respiration, breathing easier, and killing a lot of those fungal-based overgrowths. Three of my favorite right there, right? Herbal-based medicine at its best. And thyme is obviously just food. We're using dried thyme. I talked about this on Wednesday. If people out there are just saying, I'm trying to just use food only to heal, that's fine. I totally get it. But supplements, for the most part, are the best of everything, right? If you use a functional medicine-based company, such as Equilibrium Nutrition or your favorite brand, you're getting the best of good quality, food-based, condensed food-based, or extracts with the best of orthomolecular medicine. Okay, the last part is this. It is combining or using the power of licorice root in order to act as a vasodilator, to open up the airways, and to decrease the amount of what are called reactive oxygen species released by some of our white blood cells called neutrophils. What does that mean? Well, it means when we use a product such as DGL, right? So a lot of people say, oh, I can't use licorice root because of this, this, and this. Okay. The only people where it's truly contraindicated for are those people dealing with high blood pressure. All right. And again, that's still up for debate. You can still debate that. And so a lot of people do just fine with it. But what am I talking about right here with specifics to licorice root? We are adding strength back to the body. There's an old teaching in Ayurvedic medicine, bioregulatory medicine, as well as, thinking about it right now, traditional naturopathy. And it is that the strength of the lungs goes hand in hand with the strength of the adrenals. And people might say, well, that's woo-woo, ancient-based medicine, etc. And I say, okay, I understand that. I understand why you would say that, except that your skepticism is holding you back from the underlying root causes that you truly desire. Because if we were to trace that back and we say, oh, adrenal fatigue, all of that, look at what the adrenals do. If your HPA axis or adrenals are not producing the proper amount of stress hormone, you cannot increase what's called norepinephrine or adrenaline. If you don't do that, then you don't produce typically enough glucocorticoids. What happens then? You don't have enough of your own natural anti-inflammatory. So too little cortisol, very bad. Too much cortisol, very bad. You want to be in the middle. A lot of people with chronic congestive issues, that includes nasal passages, but especially the lungs and chest as well, are dealing with low adrenal output. And you can test this. simple adrenal hormone test. Add the thyroid if you want as well. It's called the thyroid adrenal hormone. Or just do the adrenal hormone. It looks at cortisol throughout the day. What licorice root does, it helps to give those adrenals a boost, right? It gives them a boost, and that allows you then the strength to be able to kick whatever this pathogen, microbe, yeast, or inflammatory-based condition may be. So it's one piece of the puzzle. All of those things are included with the sinus support. You simply take 3 with breakfast because it does give you an energy boost. Or if you're really suffering in an acute phase, you could use 3 capsules twice to even 3 times per day for a week to 2 weeks. For ongoing use, you could take 1 capsule at each meal or simply 3 capsules again with breakfast. It's a great product. We use it quite often in my practice, especially seasonally. We'll use it ongoing for a lot of people more prone to conditions in New England where dampness affects their lungs and nasal passages. So we'll use it in the January, February, March time of year. We'll use it with some people just during allergy-based season, which is more April, May here in Boston area, right? So we'll use it with ragweed season, hay fever in September. So we're using it with people as needed. Why? Because it's a supplement. Supplements are used to supplement a healthy lifestyle. Not replace it, but add it to it. So hopefully you can see my methodology there of using the best of state-of-the-art with the best of proven herbalism. So it's pretty amazing when you combine the two. And my last topic of the day, which I'm going to give you a book review with this as well. It's on the sodium-potassium pump. So last week, I brought you what to look for sodium, right? What to look for sodium on a lab test. And I said I would follow that up with what does it mean to look at a hair tissue mineral analysis that would tell you sodium and potassium. Well, this is extremely important. And so before I go into it, I just want to give you an insight into how I learned about hair tissue mineral analysis testing. I had this done long time ago now, right? Long time ago. And it was about 20 years ago. I was dealing with my own health issues. And I wasn't getting well through conventional medicine. 2 years of going from specialist to specialist. I was open to anything. Hair tissue mineral analysis didn't make a lot of sense to me. But the practitioner that was doing it, I trusted. Extremely knowledgeable. They knew in-depth nutrition knowledge. And they did help me. They were really starting to help me get better. So I ran the test, and again, I still didn't fully comprehend it because it's a pretty complicated lab test. When you look at it surface value, you can just say, oh, this is quackery, this is ridiculous. But those people don't really understand how a hair tissue mineral analysis works because you're just looking at things at a surface level. Hair tissue mineral analysis looks at systems in the body, especially electrolytes, right? It also looks at heavy metals. Well, one of those systems we're going to be looking at today is sodium and potassium, which has to do with electrical charge in the body, and I'll explain that. But the book, so I read a lot about Dr. Eck's work. Dr. Eck is E-C-K. Dr. Eck passed away some time ago, but his work was really carried on by one of his pupils, and that pupil is Dr. Lawrence Wilson. I learned from my mentor, Dr. Pete, who did some of this as well, and then I spoke many years later with Dr. Wilson himself, and Dr. Wilson's a wealth of knowledge. His book is called Nutritional Balancing and Hair Mineral Analysis, A New Science of Energy. It is excellent. When you read the book, it's 700 pages, right? So, I mean, if you're becoming a health practitioner, level 2 with the integrative health practitioner, I recommend reading it. You don't have to read it all at once, right? We're going to teach you what you need to know from it, but it's great to be able to read it. So here's the thing, though. You're going to believe some of it you're not. Like, he's a spiritual individual, and he's going to talk about some of it from a spiritual-based perspective. If you're not into that, fine. Just take the science perspective. Too many people throw away a person's message because they don't believe in the 10 or 20% of what else they wrote. Don't do that. Take what's valuable to you. Dr. Wilson, in my opinion, is the foremost authority right now on the hair tissue mineral analysis. He eats, sleeps, and breathes this, right? I would say there are a handful of people that do 1,000 plus hair tissue mineral analysis a year. And I'm one of those people. I would say that mean, functional medicine lab testing, I think you're hard-pressed to find anyone who does more labs than us and really who puts more time, energy, effort, and education to really owning this. Like really just saying, we need to figure this out. We need to master it to the highest level possible. Well, the master of the hair tissue mineral analysis, that one lab, is Dr. Lawrence Wilson. So this is the book, and I can absolutely say, and I like to give credit where credit's due. That's it, right? So like when there's a question, I'm like, okay, well, what did Dr. X say? What did Dr. Wilson say? Does that match up now with bioregulatory medicine, functional medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, naturopathy, everything that I've studied, right? So it has to fit through that lens. And no, I mean, like, so again, I already sung the praises of Dr. Wilson. I don't believe in all of the different nutritional protocols that he recommends and the supplements. I recommend different supplements. But I understand the mindset. We might just go about it slightly different. Again, what's our difference? 20%. That's it. Like not massive differences. And we also look at other labs besides the hair tissue mineral analysis. Sometimes Dr. Wilson is not able to look at, or does not look at the other labs as well. That's all I'm saying. Again, all credit where credit's due. And he's the foremost authority in my opinion right now. There are many books written. Dr. Bland wrote one, great book, but it's just, this is it. Like this is the book. As they say, this is the Bible when it comes to hair tissue mineral analysis. Okay, so now that I've given credit where credit's due, I want to go over this thing, sodium potassium. It's one of the most important indicators on the hair tissue mineral analysis. And I will link up how to do your own hair tissue mineral analysis at stephencabral.com/1099 today, okay? Sodium potassium is the electrical potential of cells. It literally looks at osmosis of the cell. How much is getting in? How much is getting out? What is the strength of metabolism? And it's not difficult to look at. And here's why. The more, like we see a higher sodium potassium, we see a greater exchange across the cell membrane. And the reason is fairly straightforward. I'm going to go through a little bit of the breakdown right now. But sodium is pumped out of your cells, and potassium is pumped in through the sodium-potassium pump. The majority of sodium lies outside the cell. It's extracellular. And intracellular is the potassium. That's how our cells work. And it works great through an osmotic process. It simply means some things flow in and some things flow out. If too much sodium flows in, you are holding a lot of water. You get really swollen. You look puffy, but it's not body fat. It's a lot of water retention, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about that. So what we look for and what we relate it to is adrenal strength. You might say, how does sodium potassium possibly relate to adrenal strength? Well, here's why. Aldosterone, or aldosterone, is a marker for higher sodium. Here's why. When you produce higher levels of aldosterone, you are going to have more sodium-based retention. And it has to do with how the kidneys function. So we can see that in a different standpoint by running a hair tissue mineral analysis. And it signals greater fight or flight, greater sympathetic nervous system dominance, right? So we can see that if sodium levels are elevated. So elevated sodium-potassium ratio is an indicator for typically greater adrenal output. It does mean the adrenals are holding on strong, but it could be right before they're crashing, right? Because you can only push so hard for so long. Now, the opposite is also true. If we have a low sodium to potassium ratio, which means if we see lower sodium on a hair tissue mineral analysis and higher potassium, we're showing more of the parasympathetic, more of trying to get into a healing state, less adrenal output. The body's in a weakened state. And typically that's felt by lower reserves in terms of mood, ambition, drive, libido, all of those things. The body's in more of a low output state. And that's typically because of chronic stress. Sometimes it's because of nutritional deficiencies and toxicities, but oftentimes chronic stress, whether it's GI, viruses, toxic overload, or work-life stress. So those are extremely important. The other thing we look at is the higher the sodium-potassium ratio. So more sodium, less of the potassium. We're often looking at a faster oxidation-based rate. And that means overall metabolism in the body. But it also means this, greater free radical damage. More prone to aging at a faster rate. Sometimes we get those brown spots on the skin. We just call them what? age marks, right? But that's not truly what they are. They have to do with lipid oxidation. They have to do with protein end glycation proteins. The name's escaping me right now. Advanced glycation end products. And it has to do with free radical damage. Less antioxidants, too much oxidative stress. So we can see how a person's aging at a faster rate. Important to look at it that way. Also, an upside down ratio will show a decrease in anti-inflammatories, right? So the more we produce glucocorticoids, the more anti-inflammatories we're going to be producing until we get into that chronic state and eventual breakdown where we're producing less anti-inflammatories. So all of these reasons, besides, I would say one more we look at, which is overall catabolism. So if a person's breaking down a lot of muscle tissue, they're gaining body fat at the same time, we can see that. We can absolutely see that through an imbalanced sodium to potassium ratio. The reason I brought this up today is because it's vitally important to understand that there's not one way of looking at the body. Conventional medicine feels like there's only the one way, and that's looking at blood work. The problem is this. You are not going to see the elevated LDH on a blood work, right? You're not going to see that showing great tissue breakdown until the body is really dysfunctional. That is why we use and recommend subclinical, which means non-disease diagnostics, looking at the subclinical levels of the true root causes before you get the dis-ease in the first place. And if you do have a dis-ease, it's finding out why you have that right now, how that came to fruition. So you know I'm a huge proponent of running the Big Five, plus the stool test, of course, if you can. But really what I'd love you to do is just to begin to understand that the reason why this generation that was just born is going to die younger than their parents, most likely, and unfortunately, is because we have a flawed system of medicine. It's called sick care, not health care. What we do is we wait for a person to get sick. And then once they're sick, we medicate them. And when the medications stop working, we add another medication, or we add a different type, or we increase the dosage. This is not how humans were meant to live. No one out there has a statin deficiency. No one has a beta blocker deficiency, right? And no one has, I could go on, right? Nobody has a Prilosec deficiency. So what we want to do right now is go deep, figure out what's going on inside of the body, and in my opinion, is the best investment you could ever make in your health. So work with your local integrative health practitioner, or virtually, your local functional medicine doctor, your local naturopathic doctor, or work with us if you'd like by simply going to equilibriumnutrition.com and ordering the lab of your choice. This one I'm talking about today is the hair tissue mineral analysis. But in my opinion, one of the best places to start is called the starter kit. That's the organic acids test and the hair tissue mineral analysis combined. I'm not going to try to sell you on the benefits of that. You can go to the website. You can check it out for yourself. If it seems like the right fit, then of course, we're happy to help, or someone locally can as well. Hopefully this was beneficial today. I try to always take really the questions that come in and just go a little bit more in depth on them. So hopefully you're enjoying the Friday reviews where I give you a little bit of lab test breakdown, what they mean, and of course, always happy to answer more of your questions in the future. Have an amazing weekend. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the first start to our Cabral house calls. As always, appreciate all of your reviews, all of your shares, and all of your listens each and every day. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great weekend. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.